Time for sport now with Darren Mara. And what a day, the cancellation of the Australian Grand Prix raising major concerns.
It does, Anton. Good evening too. Formula One bosses have refused to say exactly when the race season will actually begin after the Australian Grand Prix was abandoned today, as we heard earlier. F1 organisers say they must remain flexible as the coronavirus outbreak continues to evolve globally.
Unfortunately, the event for today is being cancelled. There's no race will be going ahead.
Cancelled here, and question marks over where to next for Formula One's international calendar.
You said it's fluid. Where should we book tickets to go to?
You tell me.
The Grand Prix season is raced across 22 countries, from Asia to Europe, the Middle East and the Americas. The Chinese race has already been called off over coronavirus fears, and there's still no confirmation the Bahrain Grand Prix on March 20 will go ahead, nor the race in Vietnam 2 weeks later.
At this point, our focus really is dealing with the issues this weekend. Clearly, I just came in from Vietnam, so we are in discussion with partners on the upcoming races.
Mr. Carey says the picture should become clearer in coming days, though admits there's no playbook for how to quickly reorganise a multi-billion-dollar international competition like F1.
And in many ways, this is an unprecedented situation, certainly for me. I've never lived through anything like this, the magnitude, the extent of this, the unpredictability of this, the fluidity of this.
Officials wouldn't be drawn on speculation the season could be pushed back as far as Azerbaijan in early June, whilst Australian organisers refuse to rule out the race returning to Melbourne later in the year.
I've learnt in the world of Formula One, you never say never. We clearly have been working on the here and now with Chase Carey and the FIA and Formula One. We'll work through matters, but we haven't started to think about future staging or anything like that.
Well, Cricket Australia has acted to minimise the spread of coronavirus by ensuring the men's one-day series against New Zealand is played behind closed doors. Australia has made the most of winning the toss and choosing to bat at an empty SCG. Aaron Finch and David Warner again laying the platform. New Zealand is chasing 259 for victory.
Playing a straight bat in a coronavirus crisis. The women's team tour to South Africa is now off, and fans won't be able to attend the one-day series between Australia and New Zealand.
This situation is bigger than cricket, and that's what we're focused on at the moment, the safety of our players, of our people and of the public. So that's where our focus lies.
But supporters that bought tickets for the 3 games of the current one-day series won't be out of pocket.
Obviously, everyone who's bought a ticket for these matches will have the ability to receive a refund.
Before the players took to the surreal stage of an empty SCG, news broke that Australia bowler Kane Richardson had undergone a coronavirus test after returning from the South Africa tour with a sore throat. But after winning the toss, openers Aaron Finch and David Warner got down to work.
Oh, just wide of mid-wicket, but it's good enough, Warner.
Finch blasted his first 6 just over the boundary, but his second was hit a lot harder and a lot further. Lockie Ferguson obliged to retrieve the ball with no fans in the stands.
That's where we are at the moment in today's game. Fetch it yourself, Fergie.
Both openers celebrated their 50s in almost total silence.
2 4s and 2 6s.
Before Ferguson hurried Warner into a mistake.
Will be it, the first wicket for New Zealand.
Finch fell shortly afterwards, Mitch Santner finding a thin edge. An empty SCG is a rare sight, but so is seeing Steve Smith clean bowled. Marnus Labuschagne and Mitch Marsh put on a 50 partnership as Australia set New Zealand 259 for victory later tonight. John Baldock, SBS World News.
Well, NBL officials have confirmed the remainder of the Grand Final series will be closed to the general public. Organisers will immediately suspend proceedings if a player, staff member or official tests positive to coronavirus. The Wildcats host the Sydney Kings tonight in Game 2. Perth currently leads the best-of-5 series 1-0. To the NRL, and fans will be locked out of games from next week as the league addresses the coronavirus outbreak. NRL Chief Executive Todd Greenberg says he's been in contact with the Prime Minister and the New South Wales and Queensland Premiers. He says all NRL games will proceed with fans in stadia this weekend before the lockout comes into effect. Greenberg wouldn't put a time frame on the stadium closures.
If the government had given us advice today to close the stadiums down, we would have done that. But quite simply, in my discussions with government, they're quite open and prepared for those games to continue this weekend. The measures they're putting forward are precautionary measures, and so they will gradually come into force.
Greenberg says the lockout will have a significant financial impact on all 16 clubs and the league. He says the NRL remains open to postponing games or holding bye rounds if necessary. Well, meantime, last season's grand finalists are currently hosting the Titans in Canberra. Jack Whiten was in unstoppable form for the Raiders. Last season's Clive Churchill medalist crossing for the opening 2 tries. A short time ago, the Raiders led 18-0 at half-time. Well, last night the Eels kicked off the NRL season with a narrow win over the Bulldogs. A second-half try to Reid Mahoney proved the difference for Parramatta. Canterbury coach Dean Pay praised his side's performance following a difficult week. Jaden Ockenbaugh and Corey Harawira-Naira were both stood down for their role in a sex scandal. AFLW supporters will be indefinitely locked out of games from tomorrow onwards. The Geelong North Melbourne clash will go ahead as planned tonight. However, remaining matches will be played in empty grounds in response to coronavirus concerns. The men's competition will start as scheduled next week, but fans will also be unable to attend games. Football and the Matildas' Olympic preparations are in disarray with their warm-up match against the United States postponed over coronavirus fears. The team arrived back in Australia this morning after qualifying for Tokyo to the news that their match against the US has been called off and another against Canada still in the balance. A cloud also remains over the Olympics as a whole, with organisers yet to decide if the event will proceed.
Right now it's in the hands of the officials and people in charge, so it's really, we can't focus on that. It's, we qualified, we're preparing for the Olympics as if it's going ahead.
FFA will hold talks with Canada Soccer over the coming days to decide if the April 14 friendly in Vancouver will go ahead. And finally in sport, golf officials have scrapped the final 3 rounds of the Players' Championship due to coronavirus fears. Organisers had planned to stage the event without fans before deciding to abandon the tournament altogether. The PGA Tour says it'll hold tournaments without crowds over the next 3 weeks.
We felt like by taking the step to address the problem with our fans, we're in a position where we can continue to operate the events.
There's still no word on whether the Players' Championship will be rescheduled. Fair to say, Anton, an extraordinary day in sport.
Incredible. Thanks, Darren. Coming up, the weather and why a town turned out to pay respects to a veteran who lived and died alone.